several times in the book, you mentioned how she was reasonably so worried about because her mother had this history of mental illness,
Yes.
worried that she would have the same kind of pattern and downfall. Can you talk a little bit about that?
And she did. She had a terrible episode where she gets locked up in New York, which is, I mean, we've all got our sort of room 101, haven't we? Which is our idea of what's the most terrifying thing that would ever happen to us. In 1984, it's that he gets eaten by rats, which is his room 101. For her, it was being locked up, which is like her mother, which is obviously why when she's dead in her house in Santa Monica, the idea that she locked herself into her bedroom doesn't work for me, certainly.
Hmm.
Anyway, she has this terrible episode where she is locked up in an institution in New York, and she's supposed to be going in to it's like it's sold to her as rehab, effectively, but it isn't rehab. She's basically been sectioned, and she fights with the doctors. She screams, she shouts, she's stark naked, and then she becomes a curio within the hospital. So the doctors start walking through and placing their faces against the window in order to look at a naked, mad Marilyn Monroe. And it's absolutely awful. And she writes letters to friends to try and get her out. And eventually she's allowed one telephone call. And this is terribly romantic, actually. And the person who saves her is Joe DiMaggio. And in fact, there's a line in the book where somebody says that Joe DiMaggio was in love with Norma Jean, and what he got was Marilyn Monroe.
Hmm.
And so he has spent his whole life in love with the real Marilyn. And so when she's really on her knees and she really can't cope, and she's been, I think, locked up for about 5 days now, she eventually calls him and he springs her from the hospital. So he had, and weirdly, although he was abusive to her in her early years, he was the one person who stood by her all the way through. And when she died, and he was the one who took charge of the funeral. He did absolutely everything. And he was the one who he sent, I think it's a dozen red roses every week, right, to be put by her
To
grave.
her grave, yeah.
Yeah. And, that went on for a good 15, 20 years after she died.
Yeah. And he was the one who also, you said he ran the funeral, like, didn't allow a lot of the people that we've
Mainly
been,
because he was
yeah.
so angry
Yeah.
by what had happened to her. He thought, and I think rightly so, he thought that she'd been killed by Hollywood. And so he was desperate for none of Hollywood to be anywhere near the funeral, and none of them were invited. They weren't allowed to come. And he'd hired his own security because he didn't trust the police. He didn't trust anybody. He created this sort of tiny private funeral where all the mourners were kept miles away in order to bury her. But the horrible, creepy thing about her graves, you probably know, is that she has got Hugh Hefner lying next to her. Do you know this story?
No, I
This
didn't
is
realize that.
absolutely true and so horrible. So when she's in that sort of very weird a cemetery in Los Angeles, where it's like you're in a sort of in the wall, a box in the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is she
it's not a grave. It's not. I
oh, she's
imagine
in
it to
oh,
be a
interesting.
proper
Yeah.
grave. No, it's not. It's in the wall.
I wonder
Anyway,
if she's in the is she in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery? That's the sort of famous
probably.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah. And so Hugh Hefner spends $150,000, which is a lot of money at that period. Well, still is a lot of money, but it was a lot of money then. So that to buy the grave next to her, so that he could lie next to Marilyn for eternity.
Wow.
And I just feel like seeing the poor woman, even in death, she's not
She
being
can't
left
get
alone.
I know. And he was the one who bought those early pinup photos,
Yes,
that calendar and released
yes,
them as if she had posed for Playboy,
yes,
basically, which got his magazine up and running.
yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Isn't that horribly creepy?
That's so weird, yeah.
Yes. I just
Um,
like saying, "Poor woman, even in death, she's not been left alone.
I know. Oof.
You can have a sleep."
I was struck by, DiMaggio, obviously, it's justified to be leaving him just on the physical abuse alone, regardless of how well they were getting on. But he was an interesting in terms of the timing because he was always a quiet guy, but obviously a
Mm,
hugely famous and successful athlete. Um, and as you talk about, at that point, he was older and he just wanted a domestic life and he wanted a wife who was gonna be there, and she was just on her rise.
yeah,
I wonder had either they met when he was if they had been the same age and he
yes,
was like a big baseball player, would that have worked? Or if she had
yes.
been older and now she was looking to wind down, but it really felt like they were just wrong timing.
Yeah, he was also incredibly jealous,
Yeah.
of her fame and success, and also he didn't like the fact that she flirted with other men. There's that story when they go to Japan and she doesn't wear any underwear. She never wore any underwear, actually, Marilyn, which is also quite weird. Uh, she never wore any underwear, and then he got incredibly jealous of her success in Japan, and then she went off to sing to the troops in Korea, South Korea, if you remember. He couldn't bear that. He was very jealous, and I think he was also Italian, and he's from a big family. What he wanted was, spaghetti and meatballs and a really lovely, pretty wife to come home to, which she obviously was. And I think he thought that he could change her and make her a housewife, which is funny because it's normally the other way around that women are normally thinking they could change their husbands. So he genuinely thought that that she would just give up Hollywood for him,
Yeah.
and she wasn't giving that up for anybody. Also, she didn't trust men. Why would she?
Right.
So therefore, it was very important to her that she had her own freedom and her own money. Uh, and the sad irony is that that house that she bought in Santa Monica, that's the first and only house she's ever owned.
Mm. And it was you noted it was it was a fairly simple it was just
I
private,
know.
but it was not a extravagant mansion.
Yeah, and she's also sort of mad in that none of her art had been hung up, and she lived like a student in a sort of
Mm.
weird way. She hadn't even got a bed head. So if you look at the bed that she died on, it's literally just a mattress against the wall.
Hmm.
I mean, she didn't love herself enough to create her own bedroom. Do you know?
Yeah.
So bizarre if you look at the photographs of the bedroom that she died in, it's incredibly basic. So there's no beautiful dressing table. There's no
Yeah.
divan to lie on. There's no diva in any of it, which I found quite bizarre. You'd have thought she might have some incredible fabulous bed head. No, it was entirely practical. It was almost like she'd just moved in, but she hadn't. She'd been there for a year.